So let's talk about complaints, procedures, and processes, which is an integral part of the diversity and inclusion framework for an organization. If we want to have a diverse and inclusive organization, we need to have a mechanism in place where people can raise concerns and have them investigated in a way um, that is fair, that is respectful, and is timely. And we should do this because it helps to identify where there are shortcomings in what we're currently doing and look for opportunities to improve those. It will have an effect in terms of improving staff morale, and that reduces things like turnover and absenteeism, and that in turn leads to improved productivity. It helps to avoid people having to go through other avenues to make complaints, such as external agencies. You know, if you're in the public service, so they don't go to the local paper or social media, or they don't go straight to their lawyers. And then, of course, that helps us to improve systems so that we avoid any future iterations of making the same mistake or future complaints. A good process should be fair in a sense of fair for all. It should be confidential so that probity is a given, and sensitivity is taken with the nature of the information you're dealing with. It should be transparent in a sense that everybody understands what we're doing, how we're doing it, how the process flows. It needs to be accessible so that people have quick access to it. And as I said earlier, they don't have to jump through flaming hoops to be able to make a complaint or get it reviewed. And it needs to be efficient so that it can be handled as quickly and as efficiently as it should be without compromising the quality of the process. So a good complaints process will also include provisions to protect employees from being victimized because they have made a complaint. So that should also be part of it so that when someone makes a complaint, that they are protected from any conscious or unconscious victimization that might happen out of that, or where there are punitive measures, either directly or indirectly, from the fact that they have made a complaint. So, for example, being removed from their job or being sidelined while it's going on, if it's not necessary. It needs to protect employees from vexatious or malicious complaints. And that can be for both parties, hence the confidential nature. Also, a sense of making sure it protects people from things like gossip and rumor, ensures appropriate confidential records are kept about complaints, and that this information is stored and managed appropriately. So making sure that that stuff is under the Privacy Act is stored, it's kept secure, and where appropriate, it's updated, so that information is treated as you would treat any other confidential information of the business nature, and protected not only by company protocol but by legislation as well. So, what does a reporting complaints mechanism look like? Well, I thought I just might pull out a couple of examples here of just overarching statements. So the first one's from Vic Education, so Victoria Education. Employees can report or make a complaint about any incident of discrimination and or harassment to their executive, manager, or principal, or seek advice from workplace contact officer. So there they've got, in their framework, they've given any of those key stakeholders as individuals that someone can go to raise an issue or complaint. So the executive, any manager, any principal if it's in a school setting, or a workplace contact officer. A nominated workplace contact officer, which would be part of that framework, structural framework I talked about earlier. The other one I pulled out was ANU, and this is an abridged version. A staff member who feels aggrieved by an action that may constitute workplace harassment, bullying, or discrimination is expected to raise the issue with their supervisor or the supervisor's supervisor as soon as practicable. Should more than one staff member be aggrieved by the same or related actions that may constitute workplace harassment, bullying, or discrimination, these staff may choose to act as a group on this matter. Such a group complaint is an acceptable form of complaint and will be dealt with as a group complaint. Managers, supervisors, academic staff have a responsibility to treat all complaints seriously and confidentiality and take immediate action to refer the staff member or student to the relevant policy or procedures. So the one from Education Vic is very much about that, getting that timely and accessible. We've got a number of key stakeholders here you can go to, and they will then direct you or pass it on, have a responsibility as part of within their framework to pass it on. The ANU one is sort of saying, okay, well, we're going to make it a little bit more structured. You either have to go to your supervisor or your supervisor's supervisor. Say in the case that your supervisor is unavailable or the supervisor may be one of the people who you have a complaint with, but they're your explicitly pointed out two contact points, and then from there, instructions to those people to say you need to treat them seriously, confidentially, and take immediate action to refer the staff member or the student to the relevant policy or procedure area. So then they've got instructions there on how to do that. So that's an overarching kind of a couple of overarching statements around that. As examples, here's a process for dealing with complaints from Human Rights Commission. I've got the link there as well. So it's a 4-step process. So the first step is the initial contact. Policy and procedures explain who to report complaint to. So pretty much what we were talking about before. You need to go to this person, any manager or executive, or you need to go to your supervisor. And it should not be the same person who investigates or makes decisions. So if you're writing this for your organization or reviewing the one within your organization, really it's about having clarity on who people need to go and talk to make their complaint. And then that person who they complain to is not the person who does the investigation or makes a decision. So really about having layers of objectivity in there, so that the person who doesn't hear the complaint is the person who investigates or isn't the person who investigates or makes a decision. Step 2 is early resolution, and this is where we treat the complaint as an informal complaint. So wherever appropriate, look for an early resolution. Say the complainant requests a sit down, it's a misunderstanding, or it's not a serious complaint. So it might be of a trivial matter, and the complainant doesn't want to make it formal. They want to deal with it in an informal manner, and they just want you to act on it. That might be about raising the issue to someone. That's something that somebody said. And it might be a couple of comments about ageist comments that the complainant felt uncomfortable with and felt that it was being disrespectful and excluding them from the group. They might say, look, hey, Tony, I just want to raise this with you. I don't want to make a biggie out of it, but I'm really not comfortable with it. Could you have a word, do something about it? And I don't really want to make a big issue out of it. And I'll be like, okay, are you sure? I'll have a chat to those people. And then I still want to document it, but then I'll go through, I'll document it as I would normally, and then go through the discussion process with the individual and try and resolve it. And sometimes that might be getting people to sit down informally to go through that. If it's not appropriate, let's say it is the complainant wants to make it formal, and it's appropriate to make it formal because it is of a serious nature, or we want to act on it as a serious nature, and we support that. Then it goes into the formal resolution. And this is where they want to proceed with a formal complaint. We get the information from the complainant. We advise the respondent about the complaint. We assess the information. So we gather the information and we get as much, we talk and research as much as possible, and we get all the information, we document it all down. And then outcomes from the process. Then we do, after the investigation, the assessment and the investigation, where the allegations are admitted or substantiated, outcomes for the respondent may include something like disciplinary counselling, where we sit down and we go, okay, look, this needs to be managed formally, and we're going to undertake some disciplinary counselling here. There's going to be some an official warning. We're going to ask you to attend some specific training, uh, and it might be formal or informal training depending on the context of it. And in some cases, we may also require um, individuals to make formal apologies to the complainant. Disciplinary actions such as demotion, transfer, suspension, probationary, or dismissal can also be part of that. Um, and often also in these situations, there's ongoing mediation to restore the relationship between the individuals involved and maybe even the broader workplace. So where allegations have not been admitted or substantiated, it may still be appropriate for the employer to take some action as a result of the complaint. For example, it may be appropriate to provide refresher training for all staff regarding appropriate workplace behaviour, and or reissue the discrimination or harassment policy or code of conduct, or employers to relaunch it, reissue, revise it, workshop it with the team, whatever's the best approach in the context of your work. And if such action is taken, it's important that it's not done in a way that can be seen as singling out any individuals or particularly punishing the respondent, especially if it hasn't been substantiated. So, the statement was made, it's been investigated, the complaint's been made, it's been investigated. There was no supporting evidence, and the respondent does not admit to it, and we don't have sufficient evidence in which to say that the claim has been substantiated. Well, then it's inappropriate for us to indirectly punish the respondent by either singling them out or saying, because of this one incident that someone did, even though it wasn't substantiated, where everybody's got to go through this training now. That's the sort of stuff that we want to avoid. We want to make sure that it's actually the actions that we take are growing actions, are beneficial, not seen as punitive measures.